On the other hand, there is a lot more evidence coming out, EMAC, and you look at the timing of all this. The 2010 election, the Democrats were decimated by Republicans using the Tea Party. It was just about that time that the IRS targeted the Tea Party. Coincidence?
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I'd love to be able to live in a world like Rick Unger does. God bless him. I love Rick Unger. But, you know, where, you cover your eyes, you cover your ears, and you accept the narrative that's out there without getting a special prosecutor to tell us really what happened about the White House's potential involvement. You know, we're a government by the people, for the people. This isn't government by the government, for the government. This is what the narrative is feeling like. The broad zoom perspective. What is going on with the DNA of our government where we're allowing the IRS to behave like this without any checks and balances, without a special prosecutor to get to the bottom of the stifling of political dissent? That's what's going on.
And Bruce, the fact is that the White House and all their minions have been throwing one office and a group of people working in Cincinnati under the bus, when in fact it went much higher than Cincinnati. But the Cincinnati people, by the way, are not taking it lightly. In fact, there's a woman named Elizabeth Hoffaker who worked in that office. Here's what she had to say about being thrown under the bus.
Sir, I was deeply offended. I mean, it impugned my reputation and the reputation of other agents and basically all federal employees. I felt like it was a nuclear strike. I felt they were blaming us.
Bruce, you shouldn't be able to get away with that, should you?
Well, I don't know that I agree with Rick on the fact that I do agree with Rick that we don't really have a shred of evidence yet relative to the White House, and I do think this does potentially give other IRS workers who didn't have anything to do with anything in Cincinnati, whatever happened. But I think Chairman Issa sort of blew it in the last week because he pulled the plug on the microphone of the Democrat who was just, we don't even know what he was going to say, and he's made this more of a political story. Yeah, he made this more of a political story, and then you can now have the White House saying that this is politics, and it delays everything, and it looks like politics.
But Steve, what's more important, decorum during a committee hearing or getting to the truth of what happened?
Yeah, Chairman Issa apologized for that hissy fit. It was a mistake, but it was a sideshow. And the fact of the matter is there hasn't been much evidence because there hasn't been much of an investigation. The Justice Department made sure that didn't happen, but 150 visits to the White House, all of these incriminating memos, it is a whitewash, and that's why, sadly, we need a special prosecutor, things that I hate. But this administration can investigate itself. And you saw at that smug interview the president had with O'Reilly saying there's not a smidgen of corruption. And Nixon said he knew nothing about Watergate.
Let's just play that soundbite if anybody missed it.
You're saying no corruption?
No.
None.
No. There were some boneheaded decisions out of a
but no mass
office.
corruption.
Not even mass corruption. Not even a smidgen of corruption.
But, Mike, the fact is that ICE's report that came out this week mentions a lot of inconsistencies. It sure looks like Lois Lerner committed perjury because in February 2012, she testified that she never changed the criteria for evaluating tax-exempt organizations, but they found a memo from June 2011, about a year earlier, in which she directed the criteria to be changed. That sounds like perjury. That's more than a smidgen.
You know, Dave, when I look at this Obama administration, and whether you're looking at this case or whatever, you got to look at the broad pattern here to see just how much they deceive and lie, right? They never told the truth about Benghazi. They deceived us on that. The president himself lied for years about Obamacare. Eric Holder, the attorney general, was held in contempt by Congress for the gun smuggling in Mexico. I mean, they have no credibility at all here. So, you know, I have to side with those who think that right up to the president, they knew what was going on with the IRS just based on the broad pattern. They lie and deceive.
Rick, I got to ask, it's a hypothetical, forgive me, but if this was being done by Republican administration, do you think that you would be calling for a special prosecutor with all of this evidence that's been leaking out?
Actually, I would, and this may surprise you. I actually agree with Lizzie more than you might think. I think we should have a special prosecutor, and one of the things I would like about that is that a special prosecutor would easily discern between Lois Lerner and the White House. I think it's a really bad idea that we keep conflating those two.
No, wait,
I'm actually all for a special prosecutor.
The IRS works for the Treasury Department. The person running the Treasury is a political appointee. IRS chief counsel is a political appointee. When asked during Congress, what do you know about this? He said, I don't know, 80 times. Doesn't that tell you that something weird is going on here?
And Steve,
Steve, let's get it came from the White House.
Okay, hold on a second. Steve, I want to get to John Tammy's point, which is very important. Don't want to go over that. There was a